Don't believe me? Well, consider these facts.
My God, we believe you. We believe you. Hey, everybody, how's it going? We're live. Yes, it's true. Can you hear us okay? Are we coming in hot? Are we coming in clear? Ben, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
All right, you're sounding better. You're sounding better. I cranked your volume up there a little bit. Sounded good. Give me another test 1, 2, 3 if you could.
All right.
Pre-show
Hi,
meeting.
my name is Ben Jarofsky. I live in the city of Chicago. I went to high school at Evanston High School, where I was a young scholar. I passed algebra, freshman year algebra. Very proud of that fact, D. Did not do so well with geometry. Let's not discuss geometry, and let's really not discuss chemistry.
And
back to you.
He was in school like before calculators, all right, guys?
It was a long time ago. Those teachers said, Ben, could you do us a favor and just leave? Okay. I know what I'll do. I'll become a columnist for an alternative newspaper and with a lefty persuasion. That's what I'll do.
Hey, Ben. Happy anniversary. Yes, 2 years as a podcast, almost 4 years as a show. In a whole, you know what I mean?
Just 1 month away from the big 4-year anniversary.
Oh my gosh, guys. Yeah, 2 years as a podcast. We got some plans. We're going to be talking about that a little later, but let's get today's show underway. Your Ben Jarofsky Show for Friday, February 26th is just moments away. But before we do this, let's thank our sponsors. Sponsors like SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana. Oh, my goodness. Frog in my throat there. The Chicago Federation of Labor are sponsors, as well as the Chicago Reader, chicagoreader.com. Subscribe, won't you? Become a binhead, won't you? That's what we call fans of our show now. Binheads. You could subscribe. There's several ways you could subscribe and help out the Ben Jarofsky Show. Go find it right now, chicagoreader.com/Jarofsky, Jorav as in victory, SKY. Become a binhead, and rumor has it you'll get a deal on the soon-to-be-released book from Ben Jarofsky. Yes, Ben Jarofsky has a book coming out. It's his greatest hits from the Chicago Reader, covering 40 years of Chicago columns. It's Ben Jarofsky's greatest hits, chicagoreader.com/Jarofsky to find out more information, to get the book, to become a binhead. Chicago Reader, go check it out. Obviously, you've done it, but go do it again, all right? So can you subscribe twice? I don't know. Find out if you can. Thank you, Chicago Reader. Ben, you have a song of the day?
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to top yesterday's. Yesterday's was pretty good. You nailed Bob Dylan yesterday.
Once upon a time, you looked so fine through the buns of dime in your prime. Sorry.
That's okay. All right. Frank's song of the day, Pale Blue Eyes by the Velvet Underground.
You know, I have a confession to make. I don't know that song. I know who the Velvet Underground are. They're Lou Reed. How about if I just do Walk on the Wild Side? Walk on the Wild Side. I said, hey, guy, walk on the wild side. That's the...
We're walking on the wild side, guys. It's Ben Jarofsky Show's 2-year anniversary special. All right, are you snapping? It is Friday, February 26th, and live from my apartment and his attic, this is the Ben Jarofsky Show. Today on the program, it's another Rummana Rundown with Chicago Sun-Times editor, Rummana Hussain. And now your host. No, you will not find him at a Velvet Underground concert, apparently. Chicago Reader columnist Ben Jarofsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Jarofsky here. We call this Parliament Rules Friday, and here's why. Well, it looks like Congress won't pass a law hiking the minimum wage to $15 an hour from the $7.25 it is right now. Nope, they won't pass it because the parliamentarian of the Senate said they can't pass it. All right, that's a boiled down version. It's a little more complicated than that. But the first question out there that I know many of you were asking was, I didn't know there was a parliamentarian in the Senate. Well, folks, I must be candid and honest. Until this story broke, neither did I. I won't pretend that I'm one of those reporters who knows absolutely everything. I'm gonna break the fourth wall, D. Most of these reporters are just winging it as they go along. They go on the WTTW show where the reporters sit around and they give them the topics before the show begins, and they study up and they cram up. And that's why they look so knowledgeable, like they know everything. But in fact, they just learned what they are reciting like 24 hours before it went on the air, and they'll forget it within the next 24 hours. Anyway, there is a parliamentarian. Her name is Elizabeth McDonough, and she mediates disputes like a referee determining what you can and cannot do in the Senate. And so when it comes to the minimum wage, the rules say you need a simple majority to pass. That would be 51. But the rules say that Republicans who oppose hiking the minimum wage can block it by filibustering, and you need 60 votes to cut off the filibuster debate. And the Dems don't have 60 votes to do that. I'm not even sure they have the 50 votes that they need to hike the minimum wage, which is really embarrassing to admit, but let's put that aside for the moment. Senate rules do allow them to pass a $1.9 trillion COVID stimulus bill because it's a budgetary matter. So someone really smart in the Senate went up to Chuck Schumer and said, "Boss, I know what we can do. We can tie hiking the minimum wage to the stimulus bill. That way, when we pass one, we pass the other." And Chuck Schumer said, "My God, that's brilliant." Actually, I have no idea if that happened. I'm just making that all up. But I wanted to have an exciting narrative, D. Anyway, Republicans immediately said, "Wait, that's against the rules. It's against Senate rules. And if there's one thing we Republicans believe in is you have to play by the rules. Unless, of course, we don't like the rules that we're playing by, in which case we just change them. But put that aside." So they went to the parliamentarian. The parliamentarian, of course, as I said, is George Clinton. Just kidding. Wrong parliamentarian. Just did that for Dennis's sake. He loves Parliament, one of the great funk groups of all time. George Clinton, of course, has nothing to do with Senate rules. We've got the funk. Sorry. Elizabeth McDougall is the parliamentary who is going to decide these rules. And I don't know if she's a George Clinton fan. I get the feeling she's more of a Carole King fan. Anyway, sorry for that tangent. She went and studied the rule book and decided that it would be an illegal violation of Senate rules to incorporate the minimum wage with the stimulus bill and allow it to pass by simple majority. So she said it cannot be done. So alas, it looks as though the minimum wage will have to get the 60 votes it needs to override a Republican filibuster. And I don't think the Dems could do that. And so it looks like it's defeated. But wait, another super smart person looked up in the history books and said, you can vote to override the parliamentarians' rules and would only take a majority. And so that means it would be 50-50 and Kamala Harris would break the tie. And so immediately lefties like me everywhere said, "Come on, President Joe Biden, rally the Democrats to this cause." Because if there's anything Democrats agree on or should agree on, it's raising the minimum wage. And what did President Joe Biden say? He said, "Sorry, I must play by the Senate parliamentarian rules. So there will be no vote, at least at the moment it looks that way, to override the parliamentarian, got George Clinton on my mind, and include the minimum wage in the stimulus bill." What am I going to do with you, Dems? How many times do I have to tell you, if you want to win, you got to start playing the game like Republicans? And this is an issue that I think would be very popular with your base, raising the minimum wage. Of course, the people whose wages are raised would really love you. The unions would love you. Anybody with like a vaguely lefty viewpoint would love you. I know there's some centrist Democrats. The Rahm Emanuel types would be against you. I'm not sure what Lori Lightfoot's position would be on this. But most Democrats would really appreciate you taking a strong stand. Just imagine what Mitch McConnell will do in a situation like this. Do you think Mitch McConnell would abide by the parliamentarians' rules if he disagreed with the outcome of that rule? Hell no. He'd have that vote in a minute to override her. Then he would hold a press conference and denounce all Democrats who disagreed with him as radical thugs. Donald Trump would be tweeting out, This is the old days when Donald Trump still had access to his Twitter file. But not the Dems. Oh, no. Once again, they play by the rules, even if the rules work against their constituents. Oh, Dems, oh, Dems, oh, Dems. When are you ever going to learn? We got a great show today, everybody. Rummana Hussain will be here. She's not afraid to break a rule every now and then, huh, D?
Rummana. Come on, everybody.
One of the things we're going to be talking about is journalistic objectivity. This story broke in the newspaper the other day with an essay that a gentleman, Hugo Balta, wrote, former employee of WTTW. And I've been meaning to discuss this with Rummana Hussain. And so that's one of the things we'll be talking about when Rummana comes on. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man that the parliamentarian in the Senate has ruled, is known as Dr. D, with the news.
Hey, everybody, how's it going? I do love Parliament.
We got the funk.
I gotta say, out of all the air instruments and mouth instruments you play there, your bass is hands down the best. Bass solo, go!
We got the funk.
Yeah.
And the people can't see it. I'm like air basing. I like it like those bass solos. And it's usually a big feller takes that bass.
All right, everybody, before we find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois for the fourth and final time this week, we need to remind all of you listening about this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews every Saturday, Sunday, and Monday while we're away. An exclusive, never-before-heard Ben Joravsky Show interview for you to play. Here's this weekend's lineup. And I got to say, I'm looking forward to recording our Saturday show. Tomorrow, yes, makes a very special day here for the Ben Joravsky Show. February 27th. I kind of implied it was today, but it's actually tomorrow. February 27th, the Ben Joravsky Show in podcast form turns 2 years old. Now, I know everybody's hearing that noise there, and in celebration, I've come up with a one-of-a-kind anniversary show. Now, typically, our host, Ben Joravsky, books the guests on this program, but for this podcast special, I take the guest book. That's right, the producer's booking the guest, which is how it is on every single show.
Except for this show.
Except for this one. But listen, I have reached out to some familiar Ben Joravsky Show guests, and they are going to be on our anniversary special. Which guests? It's a mystery. Ben has no clue who these guests are going to be. That's right. It's a podcast surprise party on the Ben Joravsky Show. And I figured for everybody to know how this is going to go down, I'll give everybody a little sample of how it's going to go down here. Ben, I reached out to a guest, and they're going to be joining us. They're joining us right now. It's our surprise guest, Jacob Kaplan.
Ben and Dennis.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
Jacob Kaplan, one of the political know-it-alls, executive director of the Cook County Democratic Party. Just in time for me to ask you a Madigan question.
Oh, man.
Surprise.
I did not know. Jacob, I did not know that it would be you. It's only appropriate that it would be you. You were my first guest. Well, actually, literally my first guest. The late, great Karen Lewis. Back when I had started the radio show, and then of course the phone didn't work. So you were the first guest in which the phone connection worked. Let's put it that way.
There we go.
Yes. And for 10 trivia points, what were you calling in to report about? Do you remember that? I'll give you a hint. It was March of 2017. What were you calling in to talk about? Give up.
I'm trying to think what was going on. A lot of Trump stuff, but it's probably something local, right?
No, it was. Well, yes, it was local. The Democrats were meeting. Having a meeting where the gubernatorial candidates came before them to present their credentials, and that's where I first heard about the name Bob Dibert. You told me you were acting like a reporter. You said Chris Kennedy came and spoke, J.B. Pritzker came and spoke, Danny Biss came and spoke.
Yep. Oh, I remember it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was that long ago.
So anyway, Jacob Kaplan and Danny Pogoshovsky have been coming on the show ever since. And that will be on next week. We'll be talking about, I'm sure we'll be talking about the whole selection process. We've got what went down on the north side. We can compare and contrast, Jacob, what went down with Senator Heather Stay's seat on the north side, and compare and contrast it with what went down on the southwest side with Michael Madigan's seat. How about that?
Happy to. A lot of things going on.
Yeah, a lot of things going on. All right, Jacob. Thank you so much for dropping in on me like this. You have any words of wisdom you want to give to me before you head off?
No, just keep doing what you're doing. Love the show. Love being on it, and can't believe it's been 2 years already. So, just keep doing it.
All right. Thank you very much, Jacob. That was pretty slick, Dennis. I did not know it was going to be Jacob Kaplan.
You're the man, Jacob Kaplan. Thank you so much. Yeah. So that's what you can expect. It's our Ben Joravsky Show anniversary special. We're going to be recording it tonight, and then we're going to have it available for download Saturday by 5 a.m. Who's going to be on? Only I know who's going to be on.
Do you remember that first interview with JK? Way back when? Probably not, That's where he told me about Bob Diber. And he said, I remember it was Dan Biss. The best known candidates were Dan Biss, Chris Kennedy, and JB Pritzker. And really, D, we are a very unusual show because we're really the only show. Think about this. We've been talking about Darren Bailey for a year. Some might say obsessively talking about Darren Bailey, the big downstate senator who's now probably going to be your gubernatorial candidate, Republicans. We've been talking about, and we talked about that. We're probably the only show in Chicago, definitely, that talks about downstate politicians. But I remember Jacob telling me, this Bob Diber is a downstate Democrat. He's a New Deal type guy. He did well for himself. And so we, called him up, brought him on the show. And anyway, nice little memory there of Jacob Kaplan coming on back in 2017.
That was fun, huh? That was fun.
Very good.
All right. That's going to be happening. It's our anniversary special, available for download Saturday by 5 a.m. By the way, heads up, spoiler alert, if you will. It's going to be a lot of dudes. All right. I tried booking females and no one's responding to me, but I got some. That's just a little heads up there. And also, I don't have that many, Ben, so I may need you to stretch it a little bit when you talk to these guests next time. All right.
Listen, booking's not easy. Now you're starting to realize booking's not easy, okay?
If those interviews go as short as that Kaplan one, boy, it's going to be a short show. May need you to stretch those interviews out a little bit when we do this. But it's our anniversary special, available Saturday. All right, on to Sunday. It's part 2 of a series that I hope keeps going on the Ben Joravsky Show. I call it Terry Cosgrove and Friends. Yeah, Ben, tell us who Terry Cosgrove brought with him this time around.
Terry Cosgrove from Personal PAC, one of the leading advocates for abortion rights in the state of Illinois. He brought in State Rep Anna Muller and Attorney Melissa Wyden. We took the deep dive on the parental notification bill, and this is right now in the state of Illinois. If a teenager wants to have an abortion, she needs her parents to sign on. I think this is just I think this is a ridiculous requirement, in my humble opinion. As I started off with the interview, the parent wasn't there when the girl got pregnant. So why does the parent need to be there at this moment of crisis, particularly when, in many cases, it would just cause so much torment and so much agony for the teenager to have to talk it over with her parents. So we took the deep dive. Anna Muller, state rep from the Elgin area. She talked about the political ramifications of it. She talked about the counter arguments that Republicans use. She talked about how Republicans will try to use this in campaigns and the attack ads they expect. And Melissa Wyden, an attorney, talked about sort of the constitutional aspects of it, case law on the matter. Fascinating story and fascinating issue. It's going to be coming before, I think it's going to be in March or April that the House of Representatives and the state Senate will have to vote on it. I don't know if it'll pass. I think it will, but it should be a tough fight. And I presume, of course, Governor Pritzker has already said he would sign the bill. So if it does pass, it'll be signed into law by Governor Pritzker. So that's what we discussed with TC, Terry Cosgrove Anna Muller and Melissa Wyden.
It's Terry Cosgrove and Friends, episode 2, available Sunday by 5 a.m., chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download podcasts. And, we got an alderman on the program on Monday, so when that happens, you got Alder Monday. That's right. 47th Ward Alderman Matt Martin, Ben's alderman, joins us on the program. Ben, give everybody a little sneak peek of what you talked about.
By the way, this is kind of funny. In the same day, I talked to Dennis's alderwoman, and then I talked to my alderman because Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez was on the show yesterday. Matt Martin is the alderman of the 47th Ward. He's a rookie alderman, and I got to admit, I like his style.
Yeah,
he's lefty, and he's just probably as lefty as I am. But he, and I admire it because, how do I explain this? I get all emotional. You know what I mean? I'm like always waving my hands in the air and denouncing someone. Come on. Yeah, Matt Martin is so cool. Yeah, and so collected. Absolutely. You ever notice that?
Absolutely. After about 2 or 3 minutes of hearing Matt Martin, you'll instantly realize, oh my God, this guy's smarter than both of these dudes. Very smart guy.
Really smart. Yeah.
This guy thinks before he talks. Wow.
He's really smart, and he's very deliberate. And he thinks before he speaks. Unlike me, who just speaks. No, that's not true. Now, come on.
Sort of.
Yeah, sort of. So it's an interesting contrast to me. We went down from one item to the next, how to make the city more progressive. He ran believe it or not, he called for a city income tax, which graduated. So the highest rates would be on the wealthiest people. That of course is going nowhere. Obviously, there's no movement for that. But it's a very important point. What are we going to do as a city to raise the money we need to pay our bills and obligations? And right now, I saw in the Sun-Times today. Oh, guess what? They're going to start doing fining you with they're bringing back the cameras, red light cameras. So we're going back to fees and fines. And of course, the powers that be in the city of Chicago say, "Oh, well, we're not really doing it to raise money. We're doing it for safety reasons." See, now that right there is Matt Martin would never imitate them in a disparaging way.
Right?
He would just like, well, Ben, there's 2 views on this. There's the one view that says we need this for safety reasons, and they have a valid point. He's so diplomatic. You know what I'm saying, D? And so I like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be more like Matt Martin when I grow up. Anyway, Matt Martin does an outstanding job. We tackle all the issues, and we talk about his relationship with Lori Lightfoot. And by the way, Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez, I know our live listeners heard the show yesterday. I thought she was very honest about what it's like to be a lefty in the city council. And when you speak from your heart and how Lori Lightfoot responds and that whole showdown, we talked about it yesterday. Did we talk about it in the news, D? You and I can't remember. It's so much. I know I talked at length about it with Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez.
Oh, you mean Lori dropping the F-bomb?
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about it.
We did. Okay. Lori dropped the F-bomb, and then Lori Lightfoot sent a clarification to Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez saying, "I was not dropping the F-bomb in response to what you were saying about Black History Month. I was dropping the F-bomb in regards to what my aides told me about something else." And so it was a clarification, and I'm like, that's not, come on. Come on. You know what, Mayor Lightfoot, you should ask yourself at moments like that, what would Matt Martin do? You know what I'm saying, Dave? Well, first of all, Matt Martin would never drop the F-bomb because he's disciplined and focused, and he would have been listening to what Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez was saying. Yeah, because obviously what Mayor Lori Lightfoot was confessing to was that she wasn't listening to Alderwoman Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez. So she wasn't paying any attention at all. So when she issued that clarification, she was essentially saying, I wasn't listening to what word you were saying. Boring. So, first of all, Matt Martin would have been listening. And second of all, let's say he wasn't listening. Let's say an aide interrupted him and told him something so outrageous that he felt compelled to drop the F-bomb, which I can't imagine in a million years. But let's say that happened. He would offer an apology. It's like, you know what? I'm really sorry that that I looked like I was insulting you. I did not in any way mean to insult you. I was having a spontaneous response to something else that had nothing to do with you. And I really feel bad that it makes you feel bad. And can we go have a cup of coffee, man? That's how you deal like if you're a mensch. You know what I'm saying? No. Lori Lightfoot is a corporate lawyer, so she issued a clarification. Anyway. It's really interesting. In one day, to talk to Dennis's alderwoman and my alderman, they have contrasting styles, but they have a very similar political beliefs. And they were each elected. They're freshmen. They were just elected. Took runoffs to get them, each of them elected. And I think they're two of the brightest, most promising young politicians in the city of Chicago, D.
It's this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews. Saturday, our anniversary show special with mystery guests. Sunday, Terry Cosgrove and friends. And Monday, Alderman Matt Martin. It's available, chicagoreader.com, wherever else you download podcasts. Find them, download them, subscribe, give us a review. 5 stars only. Okay, local news. Let's do it. We begin in the city of Chicago, and we begin...
Thank God. Science is back, baby.
...with Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
I won't just turn the car around. I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to kick you out, and I'm going to make you walk home.
Yeah.
And hey, what do you say we keep talking about that F-bomb, huh?
Okay, might as well. I'm all ready to talk about it.
It was today's top talk in Illinois Politico. Aldermen blocked a Wednesday vote on Mayor Lori Lightfoot's plan to spend federal COVID-19 relief funds, prompting the mayor to utter some filthy language. And it was caught on a hot mic during the meeting. You gotta be fucking kidding me, the mayor said. It was more like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Right? More kind of like that, right?
By the way, right after Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez had delivered this heartfelt, passionate speech about Latino and Black unity for Black History Month, right after she just speaks from the heart, Mayor Lori Lightfoot obviously wasn't listening. Go ahead, B.
Yeah, so Shia Kapos got an exclusive here, a one-on-one interview with Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, and we're going to read her thoughts on the interview and what went down. And Ben, here's the overall take here. Apparently, it's all Alderman Ed Burke's fault. All right.
Why not blame him? Nobody likes him anyway, so that's a shrewd move.
Yes, the 14th Ward alderman who was indicted not long ago, indicted and still gets to keep his job somehow. He once shook down a Burger King in his 14th Ward, which soon led to the obvious nickname Burger King Burke. I mean, it's just right there. You know what I mean?
So obvious.
Mayor Lightfoot accused Alderman Ed Burke Thursday night of trying to sabotage her plans for COVID-19 relief funding, the way he thwarted legislation decades ago during the notorious council wars. Lightfoot went on saying, quote, "This is the same man who spent an enormous amount of resources and capital obstructing everything Harold Washington did. He's the man who called Washington every filthy, nasty thing, everything, my mother would say, but a child of God." Lightfoot said in an interview with Playbook, referring to the former mayor's hurdles in office, quote, "So it is no surprise that he's railing against someone who doesn't bow to his power. It's not surprising at all." Lightfoot spoke on a range of issues during our interview, our being her and Shia Kapos, their interview, and said it's too early to talk about re-election plans because she's focused on gearing up the COVID-19 vaccine rollout. She remains dedicated to overhauling city government, including the police department, which has been a source of damaging attention like the botched raid on Anjanette Young's home that came to light recently. The mayor said she knows people are upset with how the summer's protests were handled and said she's committed to making sure police officers are, quote, better prepared, better trained, and that supervisors are also held accountable. Since the Floyd protests, Lightfoot said Superintendent David Brown has stripped some officers of their police powers, and many are, quote, being investigated by Civilian Office of Police Accountability.
Wow. All right. Well, let me just say this about Mayor Lightfoot's observations about Ed Burke. I'm with Mayor Lightfoot 100% on this one. 150%. Can I go higher? No, 342%. Let's just make it some kind of weird number. 619%. I mean, there's two things. One, it's a brilliant political move, and two, it's accurate. So let's deal with the accuracy. Ed Burke should be ashamed of himself. Ed Burke tag team with a guy named Ed Verdolik. This is ancient history. My millennial listeners don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But this is back in the 1980s when Harold Washington was elected mayor, the greatest mayor the city of Chicago ever had. The first black man ever elected mayor of the city of Chicago. First black person elected mayor of the city of Chicago. And instantly, the city council organized, the white aldermen and the city council organized to oppose absolutely everything he did. And their purpose, their mission, and Richard Mell said this in a reader interview with Gary Rivlin, the great Gary Rivlin. He said, it might be in the best interest of the city of Chicago to sabotage Harold Washington. That would guarantee he'd be a one-term mayor. That's what Richard Mell said to Gary Rivlin way back when in the 1980s, an interview with the Chicago Reader. So yes, it was a contemptible move by Ed Burke. He was far too passionate, in my humble opinion, in the overall mission. It led me to believe that he had some really weird, deep-seated, cancerous attitudes toward black people who have power. Toxic attitudes toward black people who have power. Should be ashamed of himself. I don't think he is possible to have shame. So yeah, it was a horrendous motive. For the city of Chicago. It was an embarrassing moment for the city of Chicago. And everything that came after it, after Harold Washington died, where corporate, civic, and editorial Chicago united to make sure what? That we would never have a city council rise in opposition to a black mayor? No. That's not what they organized to oppose. They came together to make sure they would do everything they can that we would never have another Harold Washington again. That was the lesson they drew. Well, we can't have an independent-minded black person running the city. Oh, no. We need another white guy. So in got ushered Richard M. Daley, and the powers that be in this city stood behind him 100%. And part of that deal to get Richard M. Daley in was that Richard M. Daley agreed to allow Ed Burke, the leader, one of the two leaders of the anti-Harold Washington movement. Burke got to keep his finance committee chair. He became the most powerful alderman, and he stayed the most powerful alderman throughout the Richard M. Daley regime and into the Rahm Emanuel regime. And it was only because of Lori Lightfoot that he lost his power. Well, Lori Lightfoot in a federal indictment. And I give her credit. It's part of the reason I voted for her, D. She was outspoken in her opposition to Ed Burke. So she is more than warranted to try to discredit the opinions that Burke was raising by linking him to his sordid Harold Washington past. That said, Ed Burke was speaking truth. I'm just saying it. When it came down, I just wrote a column about it. His basic point that the mayor's justification for spending $281.5 million in federal COVID relief funds on the police department was an exaggeration. It was just an attempt to take from Peter to pay Paul. It was just moving money around to fill a budget gap. It had nothing to do with police doing COVID work. It was BS put out by the mayor. And as I put in my column, if anyone...
History Month, we're celebrating that the future belongs to us.
Watch us shine.
What on earth?
If anybody knows about mayoral BS, it would be Ed Burke, because he's been joining with Mayors Rahm and Mayors Daley to spread it for years. So, yeah, Ed Burke was, for once in his life, was right. but Lori Lightfoot is more. You know what? Go get him, Lori Lightfoot. Ed Burke deserves it. And, you know, it was a brilliant political move, D. I didn't read the story. I just listened to what your recitation of it. Good job, by the way.
Oh,
and I was like,
thank you.
Good job. You know, that was a brilliant move, Lori Lightfoot. Linking Ed Burke to Harold Washington. Politically, it was a very good strategic move. And it also served the larger purposes of sort of allowing her to just like discredit anybody, including like a bunch of millennials, Matt Martin, Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez, who would never ever, they weren't even born when Ed Burke teamed up with Eddie Verdoliak to block Harold Washington, but would be totally against it. So by linking Ed Burke to their cause, which is spending money for COVID relief on COVID relief, she discredited their cause and made them look like they're allies of Ed Burke. I'll tell you what, Lori Lightfoot is learning how to play the game. She's learning, D. Okay?
All right. Well, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being completely awesome, 1 being awful, how many stars would you give that strategic political move that Lori Lightfoot just pulled off there?
92.
92?
Yeah, I just like doing random numbers. You notice I support her 619. No, it's a 5. It was a brilliant political move. Is it honest? Not really. Was it fair to Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez and Matt Martin? No. But come on. As Matt Martin said in the interview that we did the other day, Ben, you got to have sharp elbows to play Chicago politics. Remember he said that, D? Then we went off into a basketball discussion. Oh, wow, sharp elbows gives me an excuse to talk about the Bulls.
Oh, my God.
So, yes, very 5. Give her a 5 on that one. Very shrewd political move. Very shrewd. Whoever told her to do that, good job.
Wow.
Now
5.
watch right now. You know what the really smart political strategists do?
What?
They never take the credit. So it's like, oh no, Ben, Mayor Lightfoot came up with that herself. Really? Yeah. Okay. You got to make the boss look good, D, right? You never notice, that's just, you got to, oh no, I didn't think of it. The mayor thought of it herself. Or if it's like a really dumb idea, the reality, it wasn't even the mayor's idea. It was Billy Bob. The mayor's like kicking herself. Why did I listen to Billy Bob? Anyway, whoever came up with the idea, give it a 5.
Wow, there you go. You heard it here first on the Ben Joravsky Show. 5 stars. 5-star political maneuvering. All right, let's talk statewide news here. I got no public events scheduled for our Illinois governor, J.B. Pritzker. And that's good because, well, it is Friday, and I'm looking outside, very warm outside right now. Kind of freaking me out. Last week at this time, a lot of snow, tons of snow, and now very warm. Boy, I can't even imagine what's going to happen next. But luckily, we have Trent Ford. I say luckily, but I think this segment stinks. Ben Joravsky is hell bent on having this segment on our program every Friday. It's the weekly weather summary with Illinois state climatologist Trent Ford, a.k.a. the most boring man I think I've ever heard in my life. But hey, here's a weather summary, everybody. Enjoy.
From the Illinois State Water Survey at the University of Illinois Prairie Research Institute, this is Illinois state climatologist Trent Ford.
Is it getting boringer?
This week brought a transition away from the brutal cold to more mild weather. Week average temperatures range from the low 20s in far northern Illinois to the high 30s in southern Illinois, between 1 and 6 degrees below average. However, a quick warm-up came in the latter half of the week, with daily high temperatures ranging from the low 50s to high 60s. A station in Alexander County actually recorded a high of 69 degrees on Tuesday. February.
I'm done. I can't, we'll continue it later. I cannot make it through an entire one. What?
He was right in the middle. Somewhere it was 69 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't hear. Oh my God, somewhere in the state of Illinois, it was 69 degrees. I was really into that.
Well, we'll finish it later because, my God, we want to keep listeners. Brianna.
Wait, is he going to be?
What?
Is he going to be one of our surprise guests celebrating? Is Trent?
Oh, you'd
did
be
you
so lucky.
Hook a deal? Oh my God! Hi Ben, Trent Ford.
Oh, hey man, how's it going? Trent Ford here. What's up, man?
Wait, did you get big DB Darren Bailey? Is he going to be one of our surprise guests?
No.
Darn.
Yeah, Brianna just posted a bunch of beds on the live stream chat. She's about to fall asleep.
Come on, Brianna. You got to love Trent Ford.
Oh, my God.
I really love when he talks about precipitation. You know, really nobody talks about precipitation quite like Trent Ford. You know that, D?
No, I don't, because I can't listen. It's
precipitation rate in East St. Louis is 0.14. I don't even know what that means, but I just said it.
all right. Well, I'd like to keep my job. So more with Trent Ford. Moving on. All right. If I don't, this guy will pull the ringer.
I'll tell you what, every Friday morning, actually it's early afternoon when we do our pre-show planning, I go, listen here, Dennis. That's how I talk to him off mic. Listen here. I want more Trent Ford, damn it. He's like, yes, sir. Is that kind of how it goes, D, on our pre-show planning prep?
Wait, was that your impression of me? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Ben.
Oh, good. All right. So really two big stories locally this week. Lori Lightfoot dropping the F-bomb, foul mouth. Maybe we want to work on that. I don't know. And also, I mean, I say the same story, but it kept happening over and over again, just different versions of it. Yeah, we're going to talk about Mike Madigan again. So get ready for that. Okay, well, he's not going to jail, but.
Yeah, it's so mean that you play the little jail thing. He's not going to jail, okay?
Well, hey, that would be when I would hit a Madigan clip of him talking. Turns out the guy doesn't talk to the public at all. So until he starts speaking out, I can, I'll play that. But I got nothing. All right. So a story that we have yet to cover here on the program. Honestly, it's got a little sick of talking about Madigan. All right. So here it is, Friday. Let's talk about it. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Rachel Hinton. Mike Madigan and 4 other Cook County Democratic Committee members met again Thursday to pick a successor to the longtime state representative, this time choosing Angelica Guerrero Cuellar. The appointment to the House seat Madigan held for 50 years took roughly 5 minutes. In their quick do-over, because remember, they had a guy, and then they're like, oh, boy, we just looked at this guy's Twitter feed or something. They haven't said what it is yet, but in their quick do-over, committee members didn't hear from new candidates, choosing instead to nominate from among the ones they had heard from on Sunday when they first filled the vacancy. On Thursday, Guerrero was nominated by Madigan, committee person of the 13th Ward. Before being appointed to the role, the new representative said her, quote, focus and motivation is to serve the community and residents of the 22nd House District. Ben, I know you wanted to talk about this. We've been kind of going over it here. So here it is. Let it rip, buddy.
Well, the delight I take in this story on many levels. Michael Joseph Madigan was the state rep from the 22nd Legislative District on the southwest side of Chicago near Midway Airport for about 50 years. His replacement, Edward Kodat, was state rep for 3 days. All right. So we're going to see if Cuellar, Angelica Cuellar, can beat that record and make it to 4 days. Anyway,
I think she's got a good chance. I mean, we got the weekend here. You know what I mean? Nothing much really happens on the weekend.
I don't think they're going to meet to oust her. You know what? You know what their attitude should be? I don't care what you did. If whatever, you're going to be the state rep. Okay? What a joke. I mean, the whole process is a joke. We talked about this on the north side of Chicago. Folks who are not from Chicago are like probably struggling to understand our weird ways. But these vacancies are filled when the ward committeemen of the party, in this case, the Democratic Party that's in power in that district, convene. There's a weighted vote based on the number of people who turned out in that last election, and they get that vote. They cast a vote, and Michael Madigan, most of the votes he controlled because he's also the committeeman, so he could replace himself. And the first person to replace Edward Kodat was a 26-year-old. And this kid was so unprepared to be a state legislator. I don't know what he did. We really even hadn't had this conversation, D. I mean, but just so there was there was a Sylvania Tabares, who's the alderwoman of the 23rd Ward, another committee, but all these names are just flying at you. I know. I can't even work a computer, D, to get the vaccination. But I know, like, it's like weird the way my mind works. I know all these people and where they are. It's a cry for help. But anyway, all you political junkies out there. So Silvana Tabares, the 23rd Ward alderman, who, by the way, here you go, D. Here's a trivia question for you. For 10 trivia points, Alderwoman Tabares of the 23rd Ward.
Okay.
What Ben Joravsky Show guest was her college professor?
Maria Haddon.
Unbelievable. The answer is wrong, but the actual answer lives in her ward.
I'm lost. What's going on? What show is this? Huh?
The Twilight Zone. Mick Dumke.
Oh.
Pride of Joy at Rogers Park. The loving husband of our next guest was a journalism professor. When I first met him, he was very erudite. He was a journalist. He would smoke a pipe. I'm Mick Dumke, journalism professor. And Tabares was one of his students. Anyway, she was grilling this guy. And it wasn't even hard questions. It was like, so who is your favorite governor? I remember that. And he was like, I'm not prepared to answer that question right now. He couldn't, either he got scared he was going to say the wrong thing, or he didn't know the names of any governors. Now, if he was smart, he would have said, well, J.B. Pritzker, of course. Right, D? That would have been the smart thing to do. But he was like, I'm not prepared to answer this. I mean, it was a disaster. I'm like, Michael Joseph Madigan, this is the best you could come up with? And I thought, this is like a game that Madigan was playing. This is like a really passive-aggressive move to replace him. Okay, guys, you want me gone? You think the world's going to be a better place without me? All right, see how you like this kid. He can't even name one governor. I thought it kind of was like a passive-aggressive thing by Madigan, just saying that. But he, apparently Kodat was a very loyal precinct captain in the Madigan operation, so he was being rewarded. Now, you figure there were guys older than 26 who were waiting around a lot longer than this kid to get rewarded, but it's Michael Joseph Madigan's decision. Anyway, within a couple days, it turned out he did something we don't know. That's embarrassing. So yesterday, the reporters, they all showed up on the Southwest side when the committeemen were convening to replace Kodat, who stepped down, and replace him with Cuellar, and they were grilling Madigan. What about the vetting process? Madigan's like, guys, I didn't answer your questions when I was the state rep. What makes you think I'm going to answer your questions now? Not going to answer that question. And so we'll never know, D. We will never know what it was that he did.
That was quick, man. They're like, all right, get in here. Wait, hold on. Oh, God, get out. No.
And the meeting took 5 minutes. I'm like, thank God I didn't have to cover it. Because you know me, D, I'm always at least 10 minutes behind the time. I'd be like, whipping down to the Southwest side, get out of my house late, get on the expressway late, parking, oh God, where do I park? Running to the Lithuanian Museum where they were having it, and I'd show up like 10 minutes late and go, well, the meeting's over. You missed it, Ben. Some real arrogant Tribune reporter. Mr. On Time, Mr. North Side. If you'd shown up on time, you'd have heard it. No, that would have been Greg Hines saying that. My old friend, Greg Hines. You missed it, Ben.
Well, before we move on, we don't really know, what the guy did. And this is a podcast where we, talk about our opinions and stuff. Let's just speculate a little bit. You know what I mean? What do you think this guy did? What'd you do, Kodat?
You know?
Just rip a bong right in
think-
front of Madigan or something? What happened?
And what would be wrong with that?
Yeah.
You know? Remember we were speculating that Madigan liked to smoke reefer through the apple? Remember that speculation?
Oh, yeah.
Because he's always eating apples. And I was like, and then Dennis, who really knows a lot about this stuff, folks, was explaining all the different like fruits that you can smoke a joint through.
Never. No.
Ben, one time I smoked a joint through a grapefruit.
I've never done this.
A grape. Have you ever smoked a joint through a grape? I'm like, wow, man, it's like a small joint, you know? And how do you get pierce the grape to get the joint? Anyway, I think that Michael Joseph Madigan, the kid, were smoking a joint through a grape. And I don't know what he did, D. I think he shouldn't have gotten the gig because his answers are so bad. I'm sorry. You know, you call me old-fashioned, call me old school, say I'm a stickler, you know, too tough. But if you can't name one governor of the state of Illinois, you should not be a state rep, D. That'd be like saying to you, Dennis, who is your favorite radio personality? You could probably name 20. Isn't that right? 20. There's that guy in St. Louis. What was his name?
Oh, that guy in St. Louis. Yeah.
I forget his name. What was his name? You love that guy.
Vic Porcelli?
I don't know. That doesn't sound right. But anyway, if I asked Dennis for radio personalities, he could probably come up with 20. This kid wants to be a politician. He can't name one governor. I don't know, D. Maybe Madigan just thought about it. He goes, you know what? This is an embarrassment.
He said Rauner was kind of cool. Get out of here.
I don't think the kid could name Rauner. He had that, but you know what? You know what? On the other hand, a moment of panic. D, maybe he really has he's memorized every governor the state of Illinois has ever had, and just at that moment, who is that Republican candidate for president of the United States? And he said we should get rid of 3 cabinet positions, and so they asked him which cabinet positions he would get rid of. And he couldn't name them. Remember, there was a debate. It was really embarrassing. He came up with 2.
Well, there's the kitchen cabinet, my bathroom cabinet, several cabinets. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So it could have been something like that. So in which case, now listen, look, I'm flip-flopping already. I'm already, show some sympathy for the kid. Anyway, I have no idea why they booted him. But it's the age of Cuellar, so she's taking over. Good luck to you, State Representative Cuellar.
Good luck to you. Okay. Ben, I think we got to have some talks here with the live stream chat at the moment. Steven is listening on the live stream chat. And, you know, I think you do kind of do it sometimes. You're bashing the millennials a little bit here on today's program and a lot of programs, to be honest. Steven is a little concerned here. He's like, this is a very hostile space towards young people. He's saying that right now.
Oh, I love young people. In fact, I just read this story about I'm reaching out to more and more young people. I'm really struggling, Stephen. I have to confess something with getting my my shot, my vaccine. I'm old enough. I'm 65, so I get it. I'm eligible, but I can't figure out how the computer works. So I'm literally stopping young people that I see in the street, like a 15-year-old. Hey, can you help me with my computer? Get away from me, old man. Okay, you're really weird. No, I really like young people. So I hate if you get the wrong idea. I just, it's a generational.
Well, I think it was the comment, millennials don't know about council wars, that Steven said.
Well, no, I didn't want to assume that just because I knew something that someone who wasn't born yet would know it. Now, I have really smart millennials who listen to this show and would probably have heard about council wars, or they're sick of it. I've had millennials tell me, D, they're sick of hearing baby boomers speak so glowingly of Harold Washington. Because as they point out, Harold Washington's not going to walk through the door anytime now. So we have to come up with our own Harold Washingtons.
Oh, and shout out to Frank on the live stream chat and Jeff as well. Rick Perry was who you were thinking.
Yes. Thank you, Frank. Who else came up with it?
Jeff.
Frank?
Jeff,
thank you. It was Rick Perry, yes, from Texas. How could I forget it? And Trump later put him in charge of the energy department. Oh, my God. Yes, Rick Perry. What a moment. Great Texas governors. By the way, Frank, thank you for sending me oh my goodness. Yesterday you sent me this picture of a t-shirt that they'll be selling at the Conservative Political Action Committee meeting this weekend, where Donald Trump will be speaking. One of the t-shirts says, "Not my dictator." And it's a picture of Joe Biden with a Hitler mustache. So, here Joe Biden's bending over backwards to be as accommodating as he can to Republicans. He's not going to oppose his will over the parliamentarian rule. Going back to that story, Elizabeth McDougal made her decision about the minimum wage. He's not going to override her. He's going to abide by her because he has respect for the process and his respect for people who disagree with him. And he's not going to try to destroy the filibuster. And here are the Republicans coming, calling him Hitler. And it's just like I'm saying, it's so hard to take seriously this notion that we can have a bipartisan spirit in this country when you have Joe Biden bending over backwards to get along and respect everybody else, and he's compared to Hitler. Hey, Darren Bailey, going to take a stand on this? Remember the last time Darren Bailey, who is the presumably will be the gubernatorial candidate for the Republicans against Pritzker, when asked about the anti-mask protesters who had swastika signs, said, "Oh, you didn't believe they were really anti-maskers." Well, who do you think's selling these T-shirts? Darren Bailey at the CPAC convention this weekend. Do you think it's Antifa has infiltrated? Is that what your position is? Anyway, thank you very much, Frank, for sending me that text.
Yes, thank you very much, Frank. You can reach out to the Ben Joravsky Show at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. In fact, our good friend Steven, he just weighed in. He sent you an email on the Ben Joravsky Show page. Ben, I forwarded it to you. Maybe during the break, give it a little look-see. And a look-see. I've never said look-see in my life. Look it over, and then after our interview with Rummana, maybe you could talk about it a little bit. And that's our local news, everybody. So make sure... Wait. Oh, Ben sent me a text. Hold on. Finish the weather report. Okay. Okay, Trent Ford. So sorry, Trent. Trip Ford, take us home with this boring report.
Likely end just slightly drier than normal statewide.
Okay.
This is because the snowfall came during very cold weather this month, which limited the liquid water content in the snowpack. Forecasts for next week show mild temperatures closer to climatological averages, with most of the state receiving less than 1/4 of an inch of precipitation. As the storm system makes its way through the lower Mississippi Basin, there is a risk of heavy precipitation in far southern Illinois early this week. Looking farther out, climate predictions
Why do you like this segment?
Strongly elevated chances of above normal temperatures throughout March.
Well, let Trent finish,
slightly
please.
leaning towards wetter than normal conditions in March. This is Illinois State climatologist Trent Ford, wishing everyone a happy, healthy weekend.
Thanks, Trent. My God, you're boring.
Wait, I have a question. He just alluded to liquid water. What other kind of water is there? Can we do a follow-up with this? I swear to God, he said the liquid water content of the snow. Maybe I missed them there. The liquid water. That's like the great Donald Trump quote that Ricky Hendon went on a wonderful riff on. As Donald Trump was talking about Puerto Rico, and he goes, Puerto Rico is an island surrounded by water. Whoa. I'm trying to think, what other kinds of islands are there other than the ones surrounded by water?
All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break. Today's Ben Joravsky Show brought to you by water. When we come back, Rummana Hussain is going to join us for another Rummana Rundown. It's the Ben Joravsky Show. We are live from my apartment. Oh, you dropped some pencils there?
No, paper.
Oh, in Ben's attic.
Don't believe me? Well, consider these facts. Don't believe me? Don't believe me? Don't believe me?
All right, hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, the Chicago Federation of Labor, and the Chicago Reader. Benny J, take it away.
Every Friday, Rummana Hussain, editor-columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times, joins me. Welcome back to the show, Rummana.
Hi, how are you guys?
Doing very well. Have a whole bunch of things to talk to you about. Gave you a homework assignments. And I know you're expecting...
Right before the show.
Yes. Actually, it was kind of early. I don't know if you noticed that. I woke up relatively early today, Rummana, about 9:30, and which is early for me because I usually go to bed around 2. Anyway, so I was sitting there reading the newspaper. Actually, I was reading the Tribune on my phone, and I was like, oh, my God, I got to talk about this with Rummana. It was Eric Zorn's column about vaccines. And then I read the story about Marjorie Taylor Greene insulting Marie Newman's daughter. I got to talk to Rummana Hussain about that. And then I had left over to talk to you about this letter to the editor of the Sun-Times that Hugo Balta wrote from WTTW, just lost his job as a producer for WTTW. And I thought I would start with that because after everything that follows will be more or less amplification of the issues that Hugo raises, because you and I will be sharing our opinions. And the issues that Hugo Balta was raising has to do with whether journalists should be allowed to articulate their opinions. I've had this conversation with you many times. I've had it with Mick Dumke, my dear friend, your husband, about this many times. So anyway, why don't you just help people out a little bit if they haven't followed this story about Hugo Balta, and he used to work for WTTW, and tell people what went down, and then we'll get into the larger issue.
Yeah, so Hugo Balta was in an executive position. I'm forgetting exactly what position it was at WTTW. I think he was hired about a year ago, and I think he was brought in to change the culture of WTTW, from what I understand in the letter that he wrote to the Chicago Sun-Times. And he started these new series called In Your Neighborhood series, and they had Latino voices and Black voices. And so this is what we know and what we've heard is that he had tweeted a couple of tweets not supporting, but just expressing kind of, I guess, like, just saying that, pointing out that, Kamala Harris is the first woman of color to be vice president, and just kind of having pride in that. And Hugo Balta is part of, I believe he's the president, I don't know if of the local chapter or the national chapter of NAHJ, and that's the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. I have also been on the board of the Asian American Journalists Association, so in Chicago, and I've also been president of the organization. So it's like we kind of have similar objectives where we're trying to diversify the newsrooms. We were into diversifying newsrooms before it was cool, before George Floyd happened and everybody started talking about it. And it was something that I've been pushing ever since I probably became a journalist. So this is something I think that a lot of people of color, seeing someone in that position, I don't know. We have a policy at the Sun-Times where we're not supposed to write certain things on Twitter, but a lot of that's in the gray area because there's a lot of people, I'm still afraid about writing certain opinions of mine, but I don't know if I posted something about how I was proud that Kamala Harris was part African American and part South Asian as a South Asian woman. I don't think I'd get in trouble from the Sun-Times because I have retweeted other people saying certain things like that on my Twitter thread. And then there was also, so Hugo Balta said that was the kind of tweets that got him in trouble. He said that Phil Ponce, who hosts one of the shows, does he still host the roundtable discussion? I don't know. I'm not like I'm not a frequent viewer of the show. When Mick's on it, I do watch it, or my friends when they're on the roundtable discussion. And I've been asked to be on it, but they've always asked me while I was covering a trial in the middle of the day. They're like, "Can you come at like 1:00?" I'm like, "I'm covering something right now." So, but there are a lot of respected journalists are on it, and But anyway, Phil Ponce and two other journalists brought up the tweets, according to Hugo Balta. And I think there was some question about his Instagram page where he was reenacting Tom Cruise's scene in Risky Business with Bob Seger playing in the background. And so people, I don't know. I just find this kind of interesting because I wonder if there's something else involved. But Hugo Balta was basically just saying that really there is no objectivity. And I know that's something with the younger generation. My generation, we're Gen X. We were kind of trained to think, you're not supposed to put your opinion out there, but it's kind of gotten loosened in the last couple of years. Whenever people talk about Donald Trump, I'm not going to pretend that Donald Trump is someone whose values that I necessarily uphold. So, as someone who's like a daughter of immigrants and someone who's Muslim, I think I bring that into the newsroom. So a lot of people would argue that, objectivity has always been what one certain group thinks, and the other experiences of other journalists of color, particularly women of color, never really gotten taken into consideration, and that's what objectivity was. And so Hugo was arguing that bringing diversity and bringing experience does change the newsroom, and it doesn't always basically being objective in that sense isn't always going to work in the newsrooms, and why you need those kind of voices. So I don't know. I'm just wondering if there's more to the story. I don't know. We've just been hearing about the tweet and the Instagram, but
all right, let's just act as though this is it. That's in the story, and this is okay, because I think there's plenty to discuss and debate here. I'm with Hugo Balta 100%, just based on what he said. I'll give you why I think it. First of all, for him to put out a tweet celebrating the election of Kamala Harris as vice president and saying that's a great moment. Let's pause to reflect on what it means for America that a woman whose mom is from India and her father was from Jamaica is now our vice president. I can't see anything wrong with doing that from any. It's like I'm like flabbergasted that somebody at WTTW, and I must admit, now here I'm biased. I'm not a big fan of WTTW. I must say that right now, okay? But having said that, I can't imagine what is wrong with celebrating the elevation of Kamala Harris to the second highest office in the land.
No,
that's number one. And number two, yeah, I'm baffled. Unbelievable. But the notion of objectivity, and I'm even older than you. I've never bought the notion of objectivity. I think it's so misleading that journalists and I've never been to journalism school either, so maybe I'm fair bias against them, but to preach to these young scholars that somehow or other there's this standard of objectivity that exists in the world is so misleading, because Rummana, we all bring our biases and prejudices in our world. It took you and Samina to explain. If it wasn't for you guys, all these lefties out there would still be bowing down to Tulsi. And you had to explain, no, there's this centuries old division in India between Muslims and Hindus. And she's really obnoxious on this issue. Nope. You get what I'm saying? It's like most white journalists have no clue. Go ahead.
I agree. I mean, even growing up, I read the Chicago Tribune and the Sun-Times, and at the time, I feel like the editorial boards were mostly all white, and then maybe they had one African American to add their diversity to the editorial board, and they were all around the same age, and their viewpoints, like on foreign policy, were just so cookie cutter. Even at the Sun Times, I remember someone told me that just stay away from the Sun Times editorial pages because you'll disagree with everything they have to say. And it is coming from the perspective of people who are white and usually male, and their viewpoints were just so, and like for someone like me, I'm someone that actually has been, I've been going outside of the country ever since I was 3 years old. My viewpoint is a lot different than a lot of people who've never left this country or only go to places like Europe when they go on vacation. I've been to other places in the world, and I know that not everything is black and white as we present it, even in our news coverage. So I do feel like having, diverse voices, it does change what we think objectivity is. And maybe it does loosen up the term what objectivity is, because we do bring our biases and our opinions into the stories. Does that mean that when we cover a news story, like a criminal court case, I just write about, what the prosecutor said? No, of course not. That's when you have to show both sides, and nobody's saying that you throw that out the door. But to show pride, I mean, I think when Barack Obama was nominated president, not necessarily everybody who agreed with his politics who was African American or any other person of color, or even if they weren't a person of color, to say that this is a historic moment to have our first black president, I don't think is, and being happy about it, I don't think is anything wrong. This is it's history in the making, and Kamala Harris was the same thing. And I've been trying to look at more news stories ever since I heard about the Hugo Balta situation at WDTW, just trying to find out more information about what. But if this is what happened, I just think it is bizarre. I mean, because there's journalists from all organizations at this point in history, in Chicago media, where we've all posted stuff like that.
I know. I was going to say, I listen, I got this story that I've told. I don't know if I've ever shared it with you, but this goes back to 2012, I want to say. And somebody posted a picture of me and Karen Lewis together on my Facebook wall. I didn't post it. I don't even think at that time, Rummana, I knew how to post pictures yet. I was still learning the whole Facebook. Anyway, somebody else posted it. It was me and Karen Lewis. We had our arms around each other.
Yeah.
And my editor at the Reader at the time, who's long since gone, ownership's long since gone, so this is ancient history, said, take it down. Take the picture down. It looks like you're biased toward Karen Lewis. I go, first of all, I'm a columnist. My biases are called my opinions, and I'm with Karen Lewis 100%. That's number one. And number two is I posted pictures of me with my arm around Mayor Daley. How come you didn't tell me to take those down, It was in the Reader. It was like when Mayor Daley announced he was leaving, I was at the South Shore Cultural Center, Rummana, and he was there, and I forget who it was, set up the photo, and we have our arms around each other, even though we were enemies, political enemies. You could frenemies, isn't that what the word is? The Reader put that in the Reader. Why is it okay for me to have my arm around Mayor Daley, but not my arm around Karen Lewis?
What about Rahm Emanuel? What about that picture with you and your arm around Rahm Emanuel? Are we going to see that?
If Rahm Emanuel, come on, Rami, come on. Let bygones be bygones, okay? I would put my arm around. I shook hands with Richard Mell. I fought Richard Mell more than I ever fought Rahm Emanuel. I know that's hard to believe, but good. Mel and I go back to the 80s. And the Reader had a photo of us shaking hands, and it was frenemies, and it was a long. But the point is that I totally disagreed. And Karen Lewis, I called her up. I go, what should I do, Karen? And her advice to me was, Ben, take the picture down. There are other battles worth, this is not worth dying on the hill, or whatever she said. I love her dearly. And I said, okay, just so you know, I got your permission. So I took it down. And I just thought it was ridiculous.
I have a flip to that. What about if you see pictures of a celebrity or someone else hanging out with Donald Trump? Because there have been celebrities who were seen hanging out with Donald Trump. Vince Vaughn is the one that comes to mind. And they were at some hockey game, and he was shaking hands with Donald Trump, and everybody got mad. And Vince Vaughn's like, I was told to be nice to everyone. And then, everybody started, talking about that. But don't you think people form opinions when they see someone with someone like Donald Trump, like hanging out at his parties? That does change people's opinions a little. That's completely.
And so, and he's going to have to pay the consequences for it. So people could form opinions about seeing me with my arm around Karen Lewis. They go, this guy really likes Karen Lewis. Duh, read the column. It's not like I'm hiding it.
I was going to say it's no secret you loved Karen Lewis.
Yes, dearly. And so I don't know. I just thought it was a weird thing because for a while, Mick and I we would do First Tuesdays, and we put our at the end of First Tuesdays, we had this traditional pose. We were imitating Bruce. It was our lame imitation of Bruce Springsteen. Mick Dumke and me love Bruce Springsteen a little too much, and so everybody would have their arms around each other. And you may have taken the photo once or twice. I don't know. We would always ask our friends.
In one of your photos, I mean.
What's that?
That's not weird to have Mick have his arm around me. So it's.
No, but I mean, you were never in the photo. It would be like oh no, you were our guest once. Yeah. Rummana Hussain was the guest once. So there's a photo of me and Mick with our arm around. The reader editor would say, take that down, Ben. It shows a bias. I don't know. This notion of objectivity, I just think is strange sometimes.
No, I agree with you. And, I've actually loosened up through the years. I've always had my opinions out there. But I mean, I think journalists are very opinionated. If you sit in a newsroom, everybody's spouting off their opinions all day. So to pretend that you don't have any opinions is a little weird. So but I've always pushed that notion. Like ever since I was a kid, I would read papers and I'd be like, oh my God, this is so like biased. So I would pick up on that as a young person. Like these are all, and at that time I didn't have the language for it because we just thought everybody in journalism was white and that's the way it was. But it was because it was coming from a certain perspective and a certain group of people. And I do think I think in the last 15 years we have changed on how we see objectivity.
All right. Well, that leads to the next discussion. I purposely had it this way. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congresswoman from Georgia, and her spat with Marie Newman, the congresswoman from the southwest side of Chicago, over the bill that was recently passed, the Equality Bill, the Equality Act for LGBTQ rights. And Marie Newman was speaking up on behalf of her daughter, Evie Newman, transgender. And in my humble opinion, and this is my opinion, Marjorie Taylor Greene went too far and dragged Evie Newman into the debate and said, I'll read you the quote. As mothers, we all love and support our children, but your biological son does not belong in my daughter's bathrooms, locker rooms, and sports teams, Taylor Greene tweeted over a video of Newman's floor speech. So that's my opinion about this. I thought we would start with that. I feel that as a journalist, I am entitled, even as a non-columnist, get your thoughts on this, there's like some matters that just by quote unquote an objective measure should be accepted pretty much across the board. And one is that we have a tolerance for transgender, okay, or people who are gay. I would just assume that would be just like an acceptable norm in 21st century America. Do you think I'm showing a bias, an unfair bias when I articulate that point of view, Rummana?
No, I don't think you are. I mean, it's just kind of like saying, is it okay to be racist also, right? But I think the problem is that everybody kind of waters down the language and people remember when they, like even a year ago, there'd be stories that would say racist tinged or racially tinged. Whenever they talked about Trump's policies on certain people, in the certain communities. And then I think at some point people are like, just say it's racist. Why do you have to use this language that waters it down? So I think that's what causes the confusion when people are like, well, it's a debatable issue. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, she also had something that said she tweeted or wrote something that said there are two genders, male and female, trust the science, which is ironic because she she's written stuff about the coronavirus that doesn't really follow or trust the science. So it's just it's been kind of crazy. And the crazy thing is Marie Newman put up, I guess her office is right next to Marjorie Taylor Greene's or across the hall in DC. And she put up a transgender poster up or some sort of flyer up.
A flag.
The flag, yeah, sorry. And she said that, I hope Marjorie Taylor Greene can see this every time she opens her door. And she posted it on Facebook, I believe. And then Facebook ended up flagging it hate speech and took it down. And meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene's rants are stay up. And so then Facebook, I think after Marie Newman mentioned something about how Facebook took it down, Facebook came back and apologized and said it shouldn't have been taken down. And then, they restored it. But the interestingest thing is why isn't somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene's content taken down as hate speech?
I am with you 100% on this. And by the way, we're going to have a conversation next week. A guy I've known for years and years. This is a tangent, Rummana. David Weiss is his name. Has been kicked off Facebook 5 times for his postings, which Facebook has deemed to have violated their rules. So we're going to take a deep dive on this very subject, like getting kicked off of social media, what should be acceptable, what isn't acceptable, et cetera, and so forth. But yes, I'm with you. The way it works is that in this particular case is that Marjorie Taylor Greene was giving greater access to Facebook than Marie Newman, even though I would think, and this is me, maybe this reflects my bias, that Marie Newman's worldview is more in line with where we are as a culture in the United States than Marjorie Taylor Greene's worldview, where she's still trying to cling to these notions of what gender is, and you're either a male or you're female, and if you're claiming something other than that, you're really weird. And I will love you because God tells me to love all people, even sinners. This, which is really, in my opinion, is a very condescending attitude to have. But I will love you even though I think you're a deviant, but I will love you nonetheless. But you are a deviant, and what about this, Rummana? What about the notion that we should respect Marjorie Taylor Greene's attitudes toward transgender because otherwise it would offend her religious beliefs? What's your thoughts about that?
I don't know. Does she bring up her religious beliefs when she talks about transgenders?
Yes, that's the argument that the radical right, I don't know what to call them, the Republican Party makes. Yeah, there's a First Amendment liberty. Go ahead.
So if there was a Muslim person that was against transgender rights, the attitude would have been totally different. So it's only when it's a Christian person that everybody says that don't offend her religious rights. Because if I said that something like that, they'd be like, oh, look at the intolerant Muslim out there. Well, they call me Muslim, but whatever. They would say, oh, look at these people. These are intolerant people, and then there'd be campaigns against me. But anybody who's Christian and their rights are violated, or people feel like they're violated, the right's always like, oh, don't say anything about the religion. But everybody else is mostly other religions that they don't really think are religions are always deemed.
Well,
or being intolerant.
It is effective, I think, rhetorically, because a lot of liberals back off immediately. It's their religious belief, and that's the position that's being advanced, is that they have a First Amendment protected right to believe in.
People do have a First Amendment right to have their religious beliefs. Nobody's saying that, but at the same time, there's consequences to your actions and your beliefs.
Yeah. And also, you don't have a First Amendment protected right to deny somebody else
exactly
the right to have a birthday cake or a wedding cake or what have you. No, I'm with Marie Newman 100% on this one. And that is my opinion, my objective opinion. Okay. All right. It's time for us to take the deep dive on an Eric Zorn column. We've done this from time to time. He writes provocative columns. I enjoy taking the deep dive. And it seems like every Friday we're doing this. So your homework assignment was to read Eric Zorn's Chicago Tribune columnist, Eric Zorn's column in today's Tribune, in which he took a hard position. Eric Zorn's not messing around.
Yeah.
If you don't get the vaccine, You should not be allowed to return to your job. Don't tell me about your religious beliefs. Don't tell me this, that, the other. No. You don't get that vaccine, you don't get to go to work because you're endangering everybody else's health and safety. Your thoughts about this, Rummana?
On the surface level, I totally agree with Eric Zorn. But the thing is, what complicates this situation is that there are people in certain communities, particularly, African-American communities and other communities of color. I don't know if there's anyone specific, but with the African-American community, because of our history in the past and the way African-Americans are treated today, when they go to the hospital, when they go to the doctors, they're completely ignored. They don't trust the healthcare system. And, we hear about the Tuskegee experiments, and like Black people have been experimented on for years in the medical community. So I understand the distrust. So that's one of the things that we're working with, where a lot of people in the African community, I don't know what the percentage is, but there's been campaigns out there to educate people. So I think there will be people who won't be taking it for, whatever reason. So that makes it a little tricky. And, we have this huge city and a huge population, people of color. And so I think we have to keep pushing that the vaccination is really important. I know in the beginning, a lot of people were a little scared about, they're like, well, what if the vaccine, it's so quick. They came out with the vaccine so, quick. My brother-in-law, and he's a physician, and other physicians that I know, they said, listen, the benefits outweigh any negatives that are out there. So everybody should get vaccinated. And I personally don't know anybody who wouldn't get vaccinated. But that's just me. Like everybody that I know, almost all the adults in my family at this point are vaccinated. There are people in the medical field in my family. My mom just got her second vaccine. So like people are slowly getting it. So yeah, almost everybody in my family, I think within 2 weeks, it'll only be me and Mick and my nephew who goes to Champaign. And I think Champaign's going to probably start vaccinating students because, it's a state school. And they've been excellent on, testing students and having all these different tents where they get tested, and they have to get tested every 2 days. So, yeah, I mean, I even told, I know some people are worried about the equity. They don't want to like jump in line and get the vaccine. But, there's some days where, I have friends who are in the medical field, and they'll say like there's all these vaccines left over at the end of the day. And if you don't use the vaccine within a certain time period, it gets wasted. So I think Tuesday last week when they had the big snowstorm, I knew someone who said, hey, Rush Hospital has 100 vaccines that are just like laying around. If you want to go and get it. And I kept trying, because I'm like, I told Mick, my husband, I'm like, as soon as I can get it, I'm going to get it. And he's like, well, we got to make sure we qualify. And I'm like, yeah, but if it's available, I think I will take it. I mean, I'm going to wait a few weeks, but, if I can get it somewhere, I'm going to get it. So
yeah, I have a dear friend who I will not name, a very good friend of mine who is eligible, has been offered to get the vaccine, and he won't take it. And I'm like, what? What? No, I don't want to put that in my arm. No. And it's like an impulse. It's like, this is a guy who won't wear a seatbelt.
Yeah.
No. He's like, yeah.
My brother-in-law, he works at a veteran hospital, and he goes to LaSalle, Illinois, like every week. And he tells us all these, he said he was talking to a guy, very intelligent. And then as soon as he started, he has a lot, he has like funny stories because there's a lot of Trump supporters there. And it's, he'll tell us stories about the conversations he has. But he was saying that one guy he was talking to was just like, I don't want to get this done. Then he thinks they're going to put, it's like some sort of chip. Like once you get vaccinated, there's going to be some sort of microchip in your arm that the government's going to be following around. And then my younger sister also knows someone at work who's very like left wing, and she she's just suspicious of it. And she also said that there's going to be some sort of microchip in it. And she's like, and my sister's like, this is someone who's very intelligent, but she just is so skeptical of the vaccine. So that is a problem that's happening. So I don't know. I was reading, Israel has been criticized. They've been pretty good with their vaccination program in terms of vaccinating Israelis, but they've been criticized because the Palestinians only up until recently started getting vaccinated. But I was just reading an article about how right now they have something called a green passport. And so they had a concert a couple days ago, and everybody just showed their green passport saying that they're vaccinated and they're fine. So I think something like that. I mean, I think once we have concerts and major venue events, we're probably going to all have to show proof that we got vaccinated on our phones.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with the lefty friend and the chip. They already got the chip in you.
I know.
You think they need the vaccine to put the chip in you?
I know. I was going to say, Homeland Security monitoring my community for a long time. I mean, in fact, when me and my friends make certain jokes, we're like, we're just joking, Homeland Security. Like, well,
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they're following you anyway. I mean, on Facebook, my younger sister was showing me a pair of earrings the other day. We were just talking about it, and all of a sudden Facebook like shows I get this like ad on Facebook of the company with the earrings that my younger sister had. So we're already being watched.
Yes.
So,
yeah, and the lefty, you're giving Facebook all this information. I mean, you're voluntarily putting it on Facebook. Now you're worried about the.
But
my beloved lefties.
Anti-vaxxers have been a problem even before the coronavirus. My cousin lives in California, and she said a lot of these people who are very lefty are very anti-vaccine, so they don't want to give their kids vaccines, and then then these kids start getting sick. So I don't know. I'm someone who grew up in a family with, my father was a doctor. I know he would be like, get the vaccine, but there are people who are just skeptical. I'm just, and I understand people being afraid. And like I said, there's that added element of our history in this country, particularly, the treatment of African Americans in medical field. But I think eventually to stop this pandemic or to stop the infections and the deaths, it's like we're going to have to get everybody vaccinated that we can. And I don't know if you heard the latest, but on March 10th, the United Center will be used as a mass vaccination site. And so I think they're going to try to target a lot of, people of color. And I think initially they're going to open to people to 65 and under. But soon, I think things are going to open up and everybody's going to get a chance to get vaccinated. And I think that, this is my opinion, but I don't really think it's an opinion. it's an opinion that should be everybody's opinion. I think everybody should get vaccinated when they can.
I'm with you 100% there. And I think that's objective for us to say it. That's our objective view. And having listened to you and read Eric, I feel ultimately, I believe this will be challenged. Someone will take it to court.
Yeah.
But like, for instance, when the Sun-Times brings people back to that newsroom, that's a closed space.
We're practically on top of each other by our desks.
Yeah.
We're like, somebody's eating lunch, you can hear them crunch. We're like sitting so close to each other.
Yeah, I would hope the bright one, not that I'm in a position to tell them how to do their business, but I would really hope they'd say, all right, you want to come back to the newsroom, you have to have the vaccine because it is tight confines and you do want to protect people. And all right, let's move on. We'll close with Rummana's recommendations. You have a ton of great recommendations that I want to get through. So the one that I will be watching tonight is this Korean vampire movie that you told me about. I'm so excited. Tell folks about it.
Yeah, so it's really funny because this week, or maybe a few days ago, maybe it was last week, there was Twitter chatter about how this Korean movie called Train to Busan, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Busan, is going to be remade by Hollywood. And so there was a lot of people on Twitter just saying, like, why don't you just watch the original? Why does Hollywood have to ruin everything? And people are like, learn how to read subtitles. And it's really funny because the reason I found out about this movie is because Lee Bay, one of my colleagues, tweeted, he said, oh, I'm seeing all this chatter about Train to Busan, so I decided to watch it myself. And let me tell you, yes, just stick with the original. And so I ended up watching it. And if you like zombies, and I'm not even someone who's like a huge zombie fan, but I do watch The Walking Dead. I watched it this week. It's really good. It's really good. I know you said Pam, your wife, is a huge fan of zombies. Train to Busan, it's on Amazon right now. They made a second one, and it actually came out during the pandemic, and it didn't do that well. But Rotten Tomatoes didn't give it back great reviews. But the first one is just excellent. I think you'd really enjoy it. I think Pam would like it as well. And I have a bunch of other recommendations. I'll go through them really quick.
Go ahead.
Okay, and then the second one, I saw Minari. My younger sister paid for it to get it streamed, and she's like, hurry up. You can try it. She's like, 2 more hours.
Oh, my God. The Hussain family is great. Passing around those.
she had a 4-hour window and she saw it with my mom. And then it was like less than 2 hours later. And then Mick was walking the cats outside and then he was coming in and I'm like, we have like less than 2 hours. Let's watch it. And then he's like, let's talk about this first. I'm like, no, there's nothing to talk about. Let's just start it. And he's just like, well, what if we missed the last 5 minutes? I'm like, let's just start watching it. It's a really good movie. I'm a really big fan of Stephen Wen. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. He's actually from The Walking Dead and became famous because of The Walking Dead. He's just a really great actor, Korean American actor. He plays a Korean immigrant who takes his family to live in a trailer on a farm, and he's growing like vegetables for the Korean community because he's like, there's all these Koreans coming into the country and they're going to want to look for these vegetables. But it's really good. There's, my family's story is a little different. We grew up in Chicago and the suburbs, so it's a lot different. But there were some similarities because the grandma comes and lives with them. My grandma came and lived with us for a couple of years, and there were definitely some similarities I saw with the grandma they showed in Minari and my grandma. So this is like a really quick recommendation for anybody who's South Asian out there. If you want something quick, Mick, my husband, was telling me is a show called The Big Day, and it's basically this it's a reality show, 3 episodes, reality show on over the top Indian weddings. And Mick's like, what are you watching? And I was telling him, and he's like, don't we already know about this stuff? I'm like, yeah, but we still like watching it, and like, being all like, oh, how could you afford something like that? And just kind of, and maybe I miss India a little. So I told him I'm going to watch it. So that's like a quick kind of like a light watch. And then I also started listening to Bruce Springsteen and Barack Obama's podcast. It's called Renegades Born in the USA. And the first 2 episodes have already landed on Spotify. And I listened to it while I ran yesterday. And they discuss race in the first 2 episodes. And it's really good when they start talking about their personal experiences. And, Obama at one point talks about reparations. I thought he kind of started talking like a politician at that point. My brother's like, well, he is a politician. You want him to be like Malcolm X, but he's not going to be like Malcolm X. So my brother's lecturing us because he liked it, and I was like, well, I kind of thought like Obama started talking like a politician when talking about reparations, and my brother's like, well, everybody wants Obama to be a certain way, but he was really good. And at one point I was telling Mick he'd enjoy one part where they talk about good protest songs, and Obama sings Maggie's Farm like Bob Dylan for a few seconds. So I told Mick about that because Mick's going to listen to it. So I said, I think you'll like that part. So it's a good podcast if you want to listen to something. I thought it was going to be like the Jeep commercial. Like, I don't know if I want to listen to this. But then I was like, I'll give it a chance. And it's pretty good.
I'm with you. I want to give it a chance. And I've said this on this podcast. I try to listen to every podcast that people recommend to me at least once because I pick up tips from them. And so when I read the article about it, I said, I have to listen to it at least once. I was very dubious about these 2 guys coming together. But
I thought it was going to be like the Jeep commercial. I'm like, but it's not like the Jeep commercial, and it's good. I mean, there are some stories that I definitely knew about because I'm a Bruce Springsteen fan myself. I've read his book, autobiography, and Obama. I definitely, I know about his background and just being from Chicago and reading his first 2 books. I have his 3rd book, and I told Mick I don't have any interest in that book. Because,
God.
But I do like Obama, but I think he's very how he speaks. But he's definitely in the driver's seat in the podcast. It's kind of cool. Like you do realize what a great speaker, and and he's always been a great speaker, and you're just reminded of that. Listen to the podcast. And so I have 2 more recommendations. Sorry, I'm gonna go really quick. So I'm watching Allen versus Pharaoh on HBO Max. This is the basically a 4-part series on the allegations against Woody Allen and his daughter Satchel Pharaoh. Or not his daughter, I guess. Well, it is a daughter that he adopted with Mia Farrow, and it's actually so far it's very disturbing. And Mick was like, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna watch this." I know he wouldn't be interested in this, and he's like, "Why do you watch this? This is like the Epstein documentary." So I go, "Oh, I'm just watching it just so I can hate Woody Allen more." It's kind of like it makes you more angry how people accepted a lot of stuff that happened. So I think because you're from that generation, and you're someone who really liked Woody Allen, I think it's interesting to watch. He's just even like, I know some people are like, oh, it's unfair, but there's video of him like in interviews, and he just sounds like a weird guy. He was just saying how, because when he met Mia Farrow, she had like 5 kids, I think. And he told her, he's like, they never lived together, they never got married, but he was like, I have no interest in kids. If you want to have any, if you have them, I'm not gonna, like, he was basically, and I mean, that was an interview with him saying how he didn't care about kids, which is, I guess some people don't care about kids, but he just sounded like such a cold, I don't know, he just sounded like a really weird, cold kind of guy. And I'm not saying, it just sounded like a very dysfunctional relationship, but it's an interesting show. They kind of like, they're staggering this episodes, and they had one already. And there's other, so I'm starting this new show called Wayne on Amazon Prime. Wayne, Wayne. One of my friends recommended it. It's kind of like a coming of age show about this kid whose dad dies, and he had this prized possession Trans Am that someone had taken, and so it's him trying to get back the Trans Am. It sounds really weird, but it's a pretty good show.
Well, you're really covering the waterfront. These are a wide array of different types of movie.
Yeah,
I probably will not watch the Woody Allen documentary. I've gone through so much with Woody Allen. Although, maybe we'll do a whole show on it. I don't know. Maybe I will watch it. We could do a show on it. But I was a huge Woody Allen fan. I'm not going to rewrite history. And I've just, as time's gone on, I've turned against him. And it's kind of like my attitude about Michael Jackson. I was a huge Michael Jackson fan. And it's really difficult for me to even listen to Michael Jackson music. That's weird. This is weird. I will still listen to the Jackson 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is, I know that's weird. Well, it's sort of like, well, he's just one of 5, and I don't know, a weird guy, but I can't, Off the Wall comes on. I like that. So I live in Off the, it's whether, but that mostly I just turn Michael Jackson off. And it's the same thing with Woody Allen. All right. I'm going to do 2 quick recommendations we get out the door. One is my big recommendation. We kind of make fun of him in this show all the time. Mick Dumke. He's got really weird taste or non-taste in movies. I don't quite understand it. But he's a very hugely talented journalist, as we all know. And he wrote this epic for ProPublica. I call it his masterpiece, about the murder. There's still unsolved murder of an alderman, Ben Lewis, on the west side of Chicago. And Mick has dedicated so many hours of his life, as you know, Rummana, to this story. And he's been through so many ups and downs on the story. I'm just so happy for him as his friend that the story's out and that he's getting accolades for it. It's brilliant work. And you and I both know that what he has is so much greater than what was put, like ProPublica really made him whittle it down to fit that format they gave to him. And I'm like, Mick, you got to write a book. This has got to be a Netflix series. This is unbelievable. This is the Queen's Game. It's a hell of a story about the intersection between the mob and politics and rising Black political aspirations in the 60s. And the old white machine trying to repress Black political empowerment. It's all there. And with the murder of Ben Lewis, Mick is going to come on the show to talk about it. We'll do our typical geeky Ben and Mick deep dive. So major, congratulations to the great Mick Dumke for a job really well done. He may have lousy tastes when it comes to movies, Rummana, but the guy's a great journalist. So
yeah, he is, and I'm his wife, but I'm a little biased. But yeah, he's been working on it for a long time, and and he was telling me, he's like, thanks for listening to me. You've been listening to me for months, and I'm like, actually, ever since we were married, I've been listening to about Ben Lewis.
Yeah. No.
And he's been talking about Ben Lewis. And you know what? I told him I never had heard about Ben Lewis. And I told him, I think it is something that people would be interested in. And yeah, we work like a couple feet apart. He works in the next room. I work in the kitchen. But, I've heard some of the editing process and some of his, discussions with his bosses. And it was a story that, he was worried that, some things were going to get cut out and didn't make sense. But I cut a little of my viewing time yesterday. I watch something every day, like after work for like an hour or two. And I read the piece and I thought it was really good. I told him the only objections I had is that he didn't mention that Alan Dorfman was killed in Lincolnwood. And,
yes.
and that And he goes, well, no, he goes, nobody around the country's going to know what Lincolnwood is. I'm like, well, you wrote that Lenny Patrick died in Morton Grove. So if you can mention Grove, you should have mentioned Lincolnwood. So
No, he's wrong. Once again, Mick, showing his ignorance of movies, does not realize in The Irishman, the great Martin Scorsese gangster flick, they show Dorfman getting gunned down in front of the Purple Hyatt on Toohey in Lincolnwood, just down the road from New York Bagels and Bialys, one of the great Bagels and Bialys stores. Little Lincolnwood riff there.
One of the best. That and Kaufman's and Skokie.
Yeah. But anyway, great piece by Mick Dumke. All kidding aside, he'll be on the show next week probably to talk about it. And finally, Promising Young Woman, one of the stupidest movies I've ever seen. I can't believe I saw it. And what's even more embarrassing, Rummana, how much I liked it. I it
was great. I heard it was great. I want to watch it too, but maybe I'll wait for my younger sister to pay for it and then I'll stream it.
Those Hussains. By the way, if there's anyone in your family who has access to the vaccine, give me the call, okay? I'm waiting.
I will let you know. I do have some of the hookups, so if I find out, I will let you know. But I am going to try to watch Nomadland or I Care a Lot this week. I don't know.
Yes.
I think Mick will be more into Nomadland, so I'm going to try to watch that this week.
Well, we're going to watch Train to Busan and probably I Care a Lot. All right, very good. Rummana, stay safe and sound. Get me the vaccine if you can, and we'll talk to you next week, all right?
Okay, take care.
All right, that's the great Rummana Hussain every Friday in the Ben Joravsky Show. What you got for me, D?
Rummana, wait, damn it! I miss Rummana every week.
I love that.
I was going to see if she wanted to go see Bob Seger once this damn pandemic's over, you know what I mean?
Oh, because by the way, she I'm not making this up. Rummana is a Bob Seger fan.
Really?
So.
Oh wow.
She may. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. She may like it then. All right. That's awesome. Dude, that's news to me. By the way, Obama and Bruce Springsteen have a podcast.
Yeah. No,
You listened to it?
I thought I mentioned you. Maybe I did. No, I haven't listened to it yet. I read the article about it in the New York Times, and they had a full page ad. And like I tell you, I always try to listen to a podcast at least once just to see what's out there, see if I can learn from the others. So I will listen to it. I'll get back to you on it.
Well, what sound effects do you think those fellers do?
With my good friend, Bruce Springsteen. Bruce, welcome to the show. Thank you, Bob. Bob, Bruce Springsteen here. You're a great guy. Born to Run is one of my favorite songs, and I wrote it for you, Barack.
No, I heard. I wonder if Obama has a nice cat out of the bag. You know what I mean?
Hey, yeah, no. By the way, Barack Obama, Bruce Springsteen, it works the other way. You can learn from this show.
Can you?
Barack, I just want to do my cat out of. Hold on, Barack. Here's my cat out of the bag. Bruce, that's not as good as Benny J does it.
I tell you what, Bruce, we need to get in an attic next to a porta potty. Get a bald guy, produce it, tell jokes that aren't that funny, and then we'd have a good show.
And sing songs.
We need a song of the day.
Barack Obama was singing a song. I sing as well as Barack Obama, just saying.
I mean, I had no clue, but hey, bring it, Obama. You're in our lane now, pal, all right? You won't see us running for office, but you can do a podcast, huh? Very interesting.
His days of running for office are long gone, D. But I have a confession to make. All my complaining about Barack Obama every time I saw that name in a ballot. Vote for him. Vote for him. So, whatever.
Hey, we got breaking news. By the way, this is the back half. How's it going? Okay. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. Fran, the woe man Spielman. In a picture, well, maybe the worst possible picture you can pick of the mayor. Why are you doing that, Fran? Come on. The headline reads, City Council poised to authorize $377 million in federal stimulus spending. The City Council is poised Friday to authorize another round of federal stimulus spending despite the political furor triggered by Mayor Lori Lightfoot's decision to spend $281.5 million on police payroll costs. Lightfoot said she's confident she'll get her way 48 hours after two of her most dedicated city council critics deposed Finance Committee Chairman Ed Burke, Burger King Burke, and Raylo. Alderman Ray Lopez, yes, star of the hit Ben Joravsky Show audio drop, I Want an Answer. Ed Burke and Raylo used a parliamentary maneuver to delay the stimulus vote. I'll play I Want an Answer later. Let's see here. Lightfoot went on saying, quote, our residents are literally still fighting for their lives every single day. What they want all of us to do is focus on the things that are important to them, to deliver for them. That's what we ought to be focused on, and not a lot of political theater and drama. Nobody has any patience or time for that. Yeah, all right. The mayor says, you got to be fucking kidding me, lady. All right. The mayor advised those who want to protest the police spending to simply, quote, vote no, instead of attempting to use a series of procedural and, in my view, not mine, Lori Lightfoot's, anti-democratic processes to delay the vote. Ben, go ahead and take it from here.
Well, before I do that, Loey, I'm now going to do something you never heard. Barack Obama imitation of Raylo on the Raylo tape.
Whoa. That's deep. That's deep.
No offense, but fuck you. How about that, huh, D?
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore. Well, no offense. Well, fuck you then.
No offense, my favorite part. Now, listen, it's not anti-democratic to take advantage of a parliamentary rule that's part of our democracy. It's not anti-democratic for two aldermen to try to delay passage of a bill or a measure for one meeting. That is democracy. So it's not anti-democratic when aldermen do something that annoy a mayor. It may be annoying, but it's not anti-democratic. And by the way, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, it only took 2 days. They did what they did to draw attention to the issue. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's an important issue to be discussing and analyzing. Mayor Lori Lightfoot took $281.5 million that was sent to Chicago by the federal government for COVID relief, and she spent it on police. You have to ask yourself, is that what was the money intended for? Do you think that, well, ultimately it's a good idea to do it? I will bet you that most people in Chicago would probably side with Lori Lightfoot on this. But it's not anti-democratic to ask a mayor to defend her position. So saying it's anti-democratic is anti-democratic. Wow, how about that, D? It's like a jujitsu move. It's like you're taking a very democratic maneuver and turning it into somehow an undemocratic maneuver. And I don't buy it. I think our mayors should, as a routine, be expected to explain the decisions that they're making. And they should not just like pass it along in the middle of the night when no one's paying attention, or even in the broad daylight when no one's paying attention. I thought that part of the new era of politics with Lori Lightfoot meant a diminishment of the mayor as the all-powerful emperor who just orders and commands the city council to do what they ever want. Look, you were given a gift, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, with Ed Burke. This guy is Central Casting's version of the worst, most egregious and foul politician you could come up with from the city of Chicago. And yet, until he was indicted, everybody was lining up. I'll bet you some of the same people, D, who signed that letter, sucking up to Mayor Lori Lightfoot that ran in the Bright One yesterday, supported Ed Burke. So you got to think about something about the Chicago mentality. No matter who's in charge, they support them. No matter who's the all-powerful finance chair or mayor, they support them. And now we all see what Ed Burke really was. And it's a gift to Lori Lightfoot because she could say, Ed Burke supports this. It must be horrific. And we talked about this already. She played that card. And I would advise her, not that she would ever take advice from me, to keep playing that card because it's an effective card to play. But it is not an anti-democratic move that Raylo and Ed Burke performed. It may be disingenuous. In the case of Ed Burke, it's absolutely disingenuous because that kind of rob from Peter to pay Paul budget maneuver that Mayor Lori Lightfoot used to take stimulus, to take federal COVID relief and spend it on the cops is something that Mayor Rahm did, Mayor Daley did, and Ed Burke had no problem with it. So yes, it's inconsistent, disingenuous, and hypocritical for Ed Burke to suddenly discover his inner reformer and complain about it. But it's his democratic right, small d, democratic, to team up with Raylo to postpone the vote for 2 days. You got what you wanted. You should be celebrating. What does the mayor do when she celebrates, D? She lights up a cigar. She drinks. What was it? She drinks. She brings out the bourbon. Scotch. My bad. Sorry, Mayor Lightfoot. The scotch, and she has a steak dinner. I think that's what she said when the budget passed. She did. So you won. You got your measure passed. Break out the scotch. Light up the cigar. Have a steak. And celebrate.
Or, a luncheon.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think. If you think
no offense, well, fuck you then. Who are you to tell me I'm full of shit?
Wow. It's like the first time every time.
Every time. But no offense. All right, here's Bruce Springsteen. No expense. No offense, but fuck you.
Oh, my God.
That's Bruce Springsteen imitating Raylo.
I know. Okay. I know. You hear that, Springsteen? We're talking trash.
All right.
Talk some back, huh? Come on.
Here's Bill Clinton doing it.
Oh, God.
That's kind of going into Bruce Springsteen country.
I don't know what country we're in right now.
No offense, but fuck you. That's Bill Clinton imitating Raylo.
All right, got to make a note here. Mark today's show explicit. Okay.
Oh, that'll all be edited out for the podcast. Don't worry about it, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take care of that in the podcast.
And finally, let's talk about every well-off white person's favorite thing to complain about, and most of the time it's the only thing: red light cameras. Oh, these things, they drive me crazy. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. And who wrote this one? Fran, you are hustling today. Check out the Fran Spielman podcast, everybody. Every week she has someone on. Yeah, it's a great show. Go check it out. Chicago Sun-Times. All right, Fran Spielman. The headline reads here: speed cameras to start churning out $35 tickets Monday under lower threshold. Starting Monday, motorists nailed by speed cameras driving 6 miles per hour and 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit will receive $35 tickets in the mail under a crackdown triggered by a 45% surge in traffic deaths. Mayor Lori Lightfoot chose to lower the boom slowly with a 44-day warning period after her decision to lower the threshold for speed camera tickets became a focal point for aldermanic critics of her $12.8 billion budget. The longer than usual grace period ends Monday when the city starts playing for keeps. Alderman Anthony Beale, Ben of what ward?
9th.
Oh, good. Former longtime chairman of the City Council's Transportation Committee predicted the public reaction would be, pun intended, I think, fast and furious.
He said that?
Yeah.
Wow, I got to give him credit. That's pretty good. Good job, Beal.
Yeah,
That's good.
That is really good. He says here, quote, "We're still in a pandemic. People are not working. Crime is up. Restaurants are closing. Hotels are closing. And we're going to continue to set people back by ticketing them more? That is the wrong approach," said Beal, one of Lightfoot's most outspoken city council critics. Lightfoot infuriated aldermen by doing what the city council authorized former Mayor Rahm Emanuel to do, but the city never did. Oh, Fran sounds so mad in writing this article. Ben Joravsky, your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, I just want to correct you. It was a funny bit, but it's not just white people that are irritated by red light cameras. This was a big issue in the black community as well. Willie Wilson went on God, he's on our show talking about Troy LaRaviere, et cetera, and so forth. Do you Chicagoans believe that the mayor is bringing back the red light camera program in order to protect motorists, pedestrians from accidents, from speeding cars? That's the mayor's position. Or do you believe that's just an excuse to come up with a new way to shake you down, to raise the money to pay the bills? That's Anthony Beal's position. I tend to think it's Anthony Beal's position is the correct one, D. They're looking for ways to shake you down. It's perhaps the most regressive tax in the world because it hits everybody at the same. Everybody has to pay the same amount in a fine and a fee, but it hits harder at poor people because they can least afford it. And so then Mayor Lightfoot would say, well, then just don't speed. Remember Mayor Rahm's cars going. Remember Mayor Rahm's car? How many tickets did they get? Speeding. And then there was this explanation. I remember the mayoral explanation. I think Mayor Lori Lightfoot's cars may have been caught on this one, D.
Oh, boy.
So, there's
I'll edit that out.
Yeah, edit this one out. Edit it out. There's 3 cars. So follow me, this, ladies and gentlemen. When a mayor's procession is going through the city, there's the car that's carrying the mayor, and then there's at least one other, if not 2 other cars of security. And so all 3 cars want to get through the light. So let's say the first car gets through the light. That means that the mayor's car has to speed up to also get through the light. And that's where the violation occurs. So Mike's thing is, well, maybe you should just stop at the light. First car, just don't try to get through the yellow light. Did you ever think of that? So I'm just taking the same argument that the mayors make to ordinary people and flipping it onto the mayor. And then the mayor's response is generally, I am a very important person. I have meetings to get to. I have people to see. I cannot wait at a light. Lights for little people. Lights are where little people stop. Not important people like me. So, D, I have to admit, there's not a whole lot that I've agreed with Anthony Beal on down through the years, but I agree with him on this point.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine.
And for the record, I didn't say only white people complain about tickets, the red light cameras. It's their favorite thing to complain about, implying that they don't have much to complain about.
Fair enough. I listen when people go, fair enough.
All right, everybody. That is fair enough. Fair enough. That is a week of Ben Joravsky shows in the can. All right, everybody. Check out this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews. I'm very excited about the one that's going to be dropping on Saturday. We're going to record it after today's show. Once we jump off of here, it's a Ben Joravsky show 2-year anniversary special. Happy anniversary, Ben.
The flowers are so nice.
Oh, you like them? Cool.
Yes.
Good.
And the candy, delicious. Chocolates.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. It's a 2-year anniversary special. It's a surprise party podcast. I don't know. We're going to see how this works. Basically, usually Ben Joravsky does the booking on the program. Well, the tables have turned for this one. The producer's booking the guests. That's right.
Now he'll appreciate me a little more.
I have reached out to some people. I was getting some calls, some confirmations while you were talking with Rummana Hussain, all right? I have some people on deck ready to talk and ready to wish the Ben Joravsky Show a happy anniversary. The thing is, the guests are a mystery to our host, Ben Joravsky. He's just going to sit there and go, who's going to be? Oh, my God. It's going to be fun times. Check it out. It's going to be available Saturday by 5 a.m., chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download podcast. Who's going to be on? Only I know. Whoa. And Sunday, Terry Cosgrove and friends. It's another episode of that. Join Terry Cosgrove as he welcomes some new friends to the Ben Joravsky Show. And on Monday, it's Alder Monday, 47th Ward Alderman, and a guy who's way smarter than the both of us put together, Mr. Matt Martin. Ben's Alderman. That's right. So go check out this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews. We'd love for you to check those out. Also, you can reach us at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. No, Doogie, it's not a happy getting fired anniversary. He keeps saying...
Although, Doogie, you're actually onto something there. You know. If it wasn't for the firing, we wouldn't have the podcast. So good point. You got to give him credit for that one, D.
Send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. And you can call the Ben Joravsky Show. Please don't do it during the show. 708-658-4788. The number again, 708-658-4788. Way to go, listeners. We had a great week of voicemails. Keep those coming. You know, if you're bored this weekend, sitting around the house, got nothing going on, prank call the Ben Joravsky Show, 708-658-4788. We love funny voices. So maybe do that, or Bulls Trivia, or whatever you want to do. Call us up. And, hey, if you listen on the download, check us out live sometime, Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time at the Chicago Reader YouTube channel. Check out that new logo we got.
It's a good-looking logo. I want to thank Rummana Hussain. Did a great job as she does every Friday. Of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Illinois.
All of Illinois!
All of Illinois.
Finally! Got a
the
raise.
Man that Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen fondly call White Lightning. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. Have a great weekend, everybody.
This little light of mine. This little light of mine.
I want an answer. I want an answer. I want an answer.
This little light of mine.
From the Illinois State Water Survey at the University of Illinois Prairie Research Institute, this is Illinois State climatologist Trent Ford. This week brought a transition away from the brutal cold to more mild weather. Week average temperatures range from the low 20s in far northern Illinois to the high 30s in southern Illinois, between 1 and 6 degrees below average. However, a quick warm-up came in the latter half of the week. Daily high temperatures range